With apologies, we've been looking at this while people have been suffering for 60 years. Pastor Storella, some countries are hesitant to officially call survivors in Bangladesh refugees. How do we address the needs of Rohingya who have no home to return to? How would you classify these stateless people who were forced to leave their country, running from likely genocide?
The United Nations' role in the world is to maintain peace and security between nations and help solve the economic, social, cultural, and humanitarian international problems. One of these humanitarian problems they are founded on upholding is preventing systematic genocide, which they define as a coordinated plan to destroy national, ethnic, religious, or racial group. However, it seems to be the case that the United Nations is falling short in their role to secure world peace, as they've made no progress in protecting the Rohingya people who reside in Myanmar. Reports show they are fleeing from renewed violence, including reported rape, murder, and arson.
The Rohingya crisis that began in early 2015 has become a serious world issue that many nations have made a point to avoid. The Rohingya people of Myanmar are a Muslim minority who practice a Sufi-inflected variation of Sunni Islam. It was estimated that 1 million Rohingya in Myanmar resided in the Rakhine state. The Myanmar government, which is a predominantly Buddhist country, has forced the Rohingyas to flee to neighboring countries such as Bangladesh, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. The government has refused to grant the Rohingya citizenship. This effectively leaves them without any legal documentation and results in them being stateless. The ruthless government has presumably killed as close to 43,000 Rohingya people in the last year, while countless innocent people are being slaughtered. The United Nations has sat back feebly, debating if this atrocity should be categorized as a genocide, and has taken no steps in intervening to help protect the Rohingya.
The Myanmar government has effectively institutionalized discrimination against the ethnic group through restrictions on marriage, family planning, employment, education, religious choice, and freedom of movement. This mistreatment of the Rohingya has a deep historical root and even involves a controversy as the Myanmar government continues to identify them as Bengali, to portray them as immigrants from Bangladesh, despite the evidence that ancestors of many in this community lived in the Rakhine state for almost 200 years.
Clashes in Rakhine broke out in August 2017 after a militant group known as the Arakan Rohingya Salvation Army, also known as ARSA, claimed responsibility for attacks on police and army posts. The government had declared ARSA a terrorist organization. As a result, the military mounted a brutal campaign that destroyed hundreds of Rohingya villages and forced nearly 700,000 Rohingya to leave Myanmar. At least 6,700 Rohingya were killed in the first month of attacks between August 25th and September 24th of 2017.
Rakhine State is the least developed in Myanmar, with a poverty rate of 78%. Bangladesh, from which some of the Rohingya originally migrated, is itself desperately impoverished and not interested in having the potential burdens of the Rohingya settling there. According to the Bangladeshi government, it has taken efforts to prevent the Rohingya from adapting too much to the country by not allowing aid organizations to teach the refugees Bengali, the national language, or to offer an education beyond primary school.
The Myanmar government denies all charges of murder, indicating that its military has only targeted suspected terrorists that killed 12 security officials in late August. However, in January, the military admitted involvement in the killing of 10 Rohingya buried in a mass grave. The United Nations, as well as the US, constitutes the violence as an ethnic cleansing rather than admit it as an act against humanity. Although the UN may seem like they are going to take immediate action to end the crisis through methods such as aid and relief, they have not made any strides to recognize this atrocity as a genocide, nor have they chosen to take proactive leadership in completely halting the attacks.
Many of the surviving Rohingya have told their stories of the horrors they have faced this past year and a half. According to many of the survivors, Myanmar soldiers held village women at gunpoint while troops executed the men and boys, doused their bodies with gasoline, and turned the corpses into a bonfire. Then the troops led women and girls to huts to be raped and burned alive. Hasina Begum, a Rohingya survivor, recalls what happened in her village, Tulatoli. She was separated from her husband, who was shot and killed while being dragged off into a hut. When the soldiers noticed her desperately trying to hide her infant baby girl, they grabbed her and tossed the baby into a bonfire.
This is just one of the thousands of stories from refugees who have been tormented by the Myanmar leadership. And despite these horrific truths becoming known, the international community has not taken direct action to aid the Rohingya people.
The UN is putting a band-aid on the Rohingya crisis by supporting the relocation of Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh back to Myanmar. This is extremely inconsiderate and ignorant of the UN, as they are fully aware of the concentration camps currently in Myanmar, whereas now 120,000 Rohingya people are being held captive. Not to mention that the Rohingya people have no homes to return to, as their villages were all burned down in the attacks, which the international community is fully aware of due to the aerial footage of the attack sites in Myanmar, as well as the sad truth that Myanmar is still largely against the Rohingya. For the UN to agree to send the Rohingya refugees back to Myanmar is incomprehensible. This shows that the UN, as well as the international community, aren't looking to find a permanent solution to the Rohingya genocide. They simply want to cover up the issue rather than confront Myanmar and take part in securing a long-term safety for the Rohingya people.
That are going on now between Bangladesh and Myanmar. But as international leaders, we hope that they will move quickly to put in place a political process that will lead to the return as quickly as possible amidst safe, secure, dignified conditions of the suffering Rohingya people.
It is important not only for the United Nations and the United States to realize the severity of the situation, but for the whole world to stand up and fight for the rights and protections of those who are in need. It's time to forget the meaningless things such as race, class, religion, or creed, and bring it down to one single thing. We are all human, and we must work together to ensure that our future generations of people can live free and happy lives without being persecuted.
It is time for us, as the youth of today, to take action for a better tomorrow. It is our hope and intention that individuals put aside fear to fight for the morality of the situation, not the reality, starting with the Rohingya genocide.